Hey everyone, happy college football. It's a big Tuesday today. This is Porcelain Picks. I'm your host, Andrew Fabian, bringing you week 12 edition of Porcelain Audit. And man, do we owe you an apology after this past weekend. All right. So, week 12 was our worst week so far this college football season. It's only our third week where we had a losing record. I really should say that I had a losing record. Joey Mack came through for you. He went 2-0-1 in the MACtion locks of the week. I went 6-12. Our overall record for week 12 was 8 wins, 12 losses, and 1 push. We pledged to do better in week 13, but first, it's time to be accountable to you. We're going to walk through what went right, where we went wrong, and how we can do better on these picks, because we at Porcelain Picks are focused on bringing you the locks you need as you scroll atop the porcelain throne. And before we head into this recap, I will be dropping a MACtion lock of the week. Joey Mack's got a Tuesday pick for you. That's going to be on the next video coming up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. All right. We've got a big Thanksgiving Day game with the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State and Ole Miss that we'll be picking, and then we have a big Friday slate, Saturday slate, rivalry week for some teams here. So we'll jump into all that in the releases later on this week. All right. So let's recap our picks. Where do we go right? Where do we go wrong? Let's start off with the wrong at the noon hour. So Penn State hosting Rutgers. I told you Penn State was going to have a bit of a dud this past week, similar to Indiana when they came off that Ohio State loss. I thought the Michigan loss was going to deflate them. It did. They did not look good for most of this game. Rutgers is a decent team. They stayed in it pretty much all game until Drew Aller went down with his injury. And then Bo Pribula came in for Penn State. He got it done with his legs. Penn State covers this one last minute. We know death taxes James Franklin trying to cover the spread against these crappy teams. Penn State ends up winning by 21. I told you to take Rutgers plus 20.5. Oof, this was a tough one. Penn State looked sluggish, but they still get the cover. So that was a miss. Second miss of the day, Michigan at Maryland. I told you Michigan with that us against the world weird mentality, even though they're the villains here, they're not the people who should be seeking any support. They did not cover the 19.5 point spread at Maryland. Maryland hung in this game and actually had a chance to win. Michigan, you blew it. Let's see what happens in the game coming up later on this week. On to Oklahoma. So we had Oklahoma traveling to BYU. I told you Dillon Gabriel and Oklahoma were going to come out slinging and beat up on a really weak BYU team. That did not happen. This was closer than it should have been. I took Oklahoma minus 24. BYU kept it close. Oklahoma got the victory, but it wasn't by 3 scores or more. So Oklahoma was a loss. Let's jump to our first win of the day in the noon hour. So Louisville at Miami. I told you to take Louisville minus 1.5. I think this Miami team is not playing with a lot of motivation left in the tank. Louisville came out and easily won this game. They got it done on the defensive side of the football. They turned over Tyler Van Dyke. Louisville gets the victory. They stay alive and clinch an ACC championship appearance. So props to Louisville for our first win on the day. Lock that one, flush that one. All right. Second win of the day at the 2:30 hour. So we got the mid-afternoon slate. Arizona playing host to Utah. I told you Arizona, 2 teams built pretty similarly in terms of running game and reliance on defense to get it done. Arizona was the better team in this matchup. Utah has been a good story all year long with Cam Rising, their starting quarterback, sidelined. They've had a good season, but Arizona was just too much. Arizona's peaking at the right time. I really like this team to do some damage this upcoming week as well. Arizona won that one. Lock it, flush it, never in doubt. Georgia traveling to Tennessee. I told you to take Georgia minus 10. Not too much to talk about here. Georgia just really rolled them. The Dogs are really in a good spot here headed into the end of the year. They have Georgia Tech coming up this week, so they should be undefeated, showing up into that SEC championship game. Georgia won this one with ease. Lock that, flush that, easy win. UNC at Clemson. I told you take UNC plus 7.5. I thought Drake May was going to try to have a big appearance here to really cement his draft stock as a top 5 pick. He didn't have a terrible game, but UNC wasn't able to keep it too close in this one. It was close for most of the game, but they did not cover that spread. It was outside of a score. So Clemson got that done. Props to Dabo and team for pulling that off. This one was a loss. Let's go to the crappy Big Ten West. So we had Illinois at Iowa. I told you Iowa is a -3 favorite. At the time of my recording, it actually dropped down to 1.5-point favorite. But in any event, if you got it at 1.5, you got the victory. Iowa only scrapes off the win by 2, but that 15-13 final score got us the win on the under yet again for an Iowa game. So under 31.5 hits. Iowa -3 does not hit. Let's jump to the Pac-12. So we had UCLA at USC, the battle for LA, both teams unranked. USC just does not show up in this game. I told you to take USC -6. If you did, you're as big of a fool as I am, and I apologize for that. Caleb Williams and crew just did not show up. This team is a terrible team. They are bad. They started off 6-0 this season, but they are exposed. USC is not doing anything, not doing any favors for themselves. I think they're good. They got good recruits coming in. I think they'll probably do well in the transfer portal. But if they don't do some things on that defensive side of the football and make big changes, they're going to just be in for hell when they face Big Ten next season. UCLA easily beats USC, and this season is just a wash for USC. All right, so Cincinnati at West Virginia. I told you Cincinnati has been pummeled by this Big 12 schedule. Take West Virginia -6.5. This game, again, was never in doubt. West Virginia is a better team than was first thought. They were actually picked to finish at the bottom of the Big 12. They're putting together a nice season there in Morgantown. So West Virginia, that was a lock 'em flush 'em. That was never in doubt. Staying in the Big 12, so Oklahoma State at Houston. Similar story as Cincinnati. I told you Houston has just met some of the perils of being in a tougher conference this year. Oklahoma State -6.5. Houston did actually jump out to the lead. It was looking like a questionable pick here, but Oklahoma State rallies. They end up winning this game with ease at the end by 2 scores. Oklahoma State was a lock 'em flush 'em. All right, so decent so far, right? We've got a winning record in the games that I've gone through. The nightcap. This was just an absolute travesty. All right, so hopefully you tuned out of my video for my picks last week for week 12 after I went through the mid-afternoon picks, because after 7 p.m. we go 0-6, and that's just blasphemy. That is not something that we should be expected to put forth as a product for you. I take full responsibility for that. The research was there. The picks were just opposite of true. They were wrong, and that's on me. Okay, so I'll jump through those right now, and then we'll pledge to do better. I'll run through these pretty quickly, but I had Kansas State -9.5 at Kansas in the rivalry game. I thought K-State was just a flat-out better team, and with Kansas on their third string, I thought this would be an easy cover by multiple touchdowns. Kansas State gets the win, but they do not cover, so that was a loss. Pac-12 play, we had Washington at Oregon State. I thought Oregon State was going to come out and really show what they could do here and get the victory in front of their home crowd. I also said that this game was going to go over 62.5. Neither was correct. Washington wins. Penix Jr. proves me wrong. Shame on me. It goes under as well. So that was 2 losses in that game. We had Florida at Missouri. Missouri was a 10.5-point favorite. Florida is pretty crappy this year. They had a 500 record going in. I thought they weren't going to be able to keep up with Missouri. I was wrong. Missouri's defense does not play particularly well in this game. They were lucky to come away with a victory. They converted on a 4th and 18 in their own territory on that last drive of the game, and they end up kicking the game-winning field goal. Missouri does not cover. They get the win, but this was a loss on the 10.5. Back to Big 12, we had Texas at Iowa State. Iowa State was a 7.5-point dog. I told you to take Iowa State in this game. I thought Rocco Becht would show up. Texas was going to be in a tough spot after having a few close calls against bad competition. This was not the case. Texas ends up winning by double digits here. Iowa State can't cover that 7.5. That was a loss. Last game of the night, back to the crappy Big Ten West. We had Nebraska at Wisconsin. I thought this would be a slugfest and that it would go under the total of 37.5. It actually bumped up to 39.5 at the time of kickoff. This game was on track for that. It was a running battle. It was a defensive battle. It goes to overtime. We lose on that under pick. So that was that was 6 straight losses at the night games, and I'm beside myself. I couldn't believe it. I'm sure you couldn't believe it either. But back to the positive side of things. All right, this was only the third losing week all season out of 12 weeks. Week 13, we've got a big slate, kind of crazy days ahead of us with MACtion Lock of the Week coming for tonight's pick. And then we have the Thanksgiving Day game, again, the Egg Bowl between Mississippi State and Ole Miss that I'll be picking. Friday's a big slate as well for those of you who are off work and get to watch, get to follow along. So drop a subscribe here. I'm going to release that MACtion pick of the week shortly. It's week 13. The season went by quickly. Thanks for sticking with us at Porcelain Picks. Let's end with a W. Then we'll jump into bowl season. We'll have picks all bowl season as well. All right. Thanks for following us, Porcelain Picks. Happy college football, everyone. Let's have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving.